Two experts in ICF.
Yeah.
Decades of experience.
Uh-huh.
One podcast.
Yeah.
Two hosts with a lot to say.
Look, I cannot sit through a struggle. I gotta get up and hustle. I gotta push through the pain, cause really that's how you build muscle.
Welcome to the Build with ICF podcast with your hosts, Trevor Brown and Heather Herring Brown. Yep, they're a package deal. With over 20 years of ICF installation experience, Trevor can throw down some expertise on sales, marketing, and training. On the other side of the table sits Heather, aka the girl boss, and she's earned the title as the owner of an award-winning ICF construction company, a drafting and design company specializing in ICF. And the numbers? With a master's in accounting, she does that too. Sleeves up, boots on. This is the Build with ICF podcast.
I don't want nothing for free. I'm here to work. Been through the dirt. I've been through the dirt. Yeah.
Boom. You're looking at me like usually you start. So
I know. That's why I was going to let you start.
Oh, wow.
It's
Cool. I've been promoted.
You have. It's been a hectic week. I figured,
You're going to take a little time off and do that? It has been a hectic week. We are doing some really different stuff tonight. We are recording somewhere we've never recorded.
Yeah.
Kind of in a situation we've never recorded in.
Not on this podcast anyways.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It is literally, we're out of the studio. We took our equipment with us. We had to be out of town. We're down in Boise where our shop is, because we live up in McCall, a couple hours away, and then we have our businesses and stuff are all down here in Boise. So we're staying at our Airbnb down here, and you're a little chilly, so we've got blankets wrapped up, and we're sitting on the couches across from each other, recording in our living room of the Airbnb. So a little different vibe than the studio. So we'll see if we sound more relaxed and kick back on the couch.
Put people to sleep.
Yeah. They'll remember the episode 16, the one where we put everybody to sleep.
Yes. I doubt that, especially with our topic tonight, because this is a lot of information that people have been requesting quite a bit lately.
Yeah, we get like a lot. I mean, it's one of those, we try to mix in, you'll kind of notice what we do is we try to get a guest in here, and then we try to mix something in. At least at the beginning, I think there's a lot of kind of 101 stuff, like we did the waterproof 101. I think there's just a lot of stuff that we can give generic stuff that we don't need to have a guest for, that is just kind of our personal knowledge on this stuff, that, questions that have come in from, on email and through the DMs and stuff with everybody, that I think we can answer without having to really have an expert, I guess. Even though we're considered experts.
I think so.
Should be.
Yeah.
Put enough years in.
We don't need another third party
Correct.
expert.
Yep. So you're just getting us tonight, people. This is it. This is as good as it gets. So tonight we are going to talk about electrical, plumbing, and fasteners. We get a lot of questions about this stuff, and from the standpoint of DIY, I should say. This isn't necessarily from a lot of the installers. They kind of know this stuff, but something just comes up. People that are learning about ICF, they want to know about this, and it's interesting to hear. And we always welcome feedback of people that, listen to the podcast that know more than we do and do things differently, and can always reach out and let us know, and we'll be happy to amend our statements on future podcasts.
Well, I think
so let us know.
We're constantly learning too. I mean, what we're talking about is some of the things that we do in our builds.
Yeah.
And we're constantly, like, we go in and do another job, and somebody comes in and they have a different way to do it, and you're like, didn't think of that.
Yeah, it's
maybe it's better, maybe it's not, but it's just another perspective.
Constantly. I mean, I had a conversation with a contractor that reached out to me today. They were asking about the waterproofing, the Hulk waterproofing that we did an episode on. And they reached out to me and just were asking. It was really interesting to hear kind of what they were explaining, what they do and how they do their waterproofing, and what they do different. And it's just interesting how when he was explaining how he did it, it was just different. And I was like, yeah, okay, I understand, 'cause that's a little different than we do it, or how they do. Even like we talked a little bit about the coverage of like your parge coating and stuff like that, what they do. And, anyways, really interesting. So probably start off electrical. That's one of the first things everybody asks us about. They're like, well, how do you put the electrical into the wall or into the concrete? Do you have to put it all in conduit? All these different things. I saw one of the Instagram accounts that we follow. She got a question. I was watching her, and she got a question, and somebody was like, how do you keep the wires from rusting inside the concrete? And I'm like, well, it doesn't go inside the concrete. So spoiler alert, we do not put the wires inside the concrete. So everything we do, most of what we do with the electrical is going to be installed in one of a few ways. I would say mostly one of two ways, which the most effective or fastest and dirtiest way to do it is the old chainsaw. So almost every brand of tools now make a cordless chainsaw. Vault makes one, Milwaukee makes one, Akita makes one. So everybody's got them.
Handy dandy little tools.
Yeah. So nice little short little, almost I think they refer to more like a pruning saw, but chainsaw. And what we do to stop from hitting the concrete is you do modify it a little bit, and you take a drill bit and you cut, drill a hole in the bar, and you basically put a little threaded, either a bolt or put a piece of ready thread, all thread through there with a couple nuts on it. Basically just gives you kind of a jig to keep you from hitting, going in more than 2.5 inches on the foam and hitting the concrete and messing up your chainsaw blade and throwing sparks. So that's kind of how you do that. And it's very fast. I mean, so if you can imagine, basically as fast as you can walk, you can cut your lines for your wire and put your wire in. We don't, I have seen guys, again, I'm not saying that they don't put conduit in. I've seen guys that take out a big old gouge and they put conduit in and they attach it to the wall and they do different things. This is how we do it. We, all of our electricians just cut it right into the foam. They push the Romex right into the foam. The wire goes right in there. Very quick.
Yes.
Easy, messy.
Yes.
Looks like a giant snow globe inside there when you get done. But that's why they make the cordless leaf blowers too, because we just blow it around.
Yeah, or the little shop vac so that you're not getting it out everywhere where you got to go and pick it up again.
You do it a little cleaner than we do.
Yes, yes.
So when the girl boss isn't on the job site, we just blow it around. She's the nice one that cleans it up. But so that is one of the things we do. This is, and it brings up a good point of like people ask, they're like, oh, do your subs charge you more? And I'm sure I'll get my feedback from my electrician friends out there, but our electricians do not charge us anymore to do this. They actually charge us less. You can even negotiate your pricing down a lot of times with your electrician when you're talking about the hours. I mean the time, because it's all man hours. So the best way I can visualize this audibly over the podcast is trying to explain to people that if you took two walls, 20-foot long wall, you got a room, living room, 20 feet long, and one side of that wall has an ICF wall on it, and the other side has a 2x6 wall. And you have to run wire from one end to the other, and you've got to pop holes in every stud. So you've got your whole hog, your Milwaukee whole hog with a 1-inch bit on it, and you're going through there and you're popping holes, pop, 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 pop through that wall, and you're basically to run your wire through. If you stand on one end and I stand on the other, and I got my little chainsaw, and I walk as fast as I can walk the end of that 20 feet and put the wire in, how long do you think it's going to take the other guy to put a hole in every stud, every 16 inches and pull the wire through? That right there is going to save you a ton of time. And that's a lot of the time in electrical. I mean, yeah, there is parts where they go up into the attic and stuff and drop it in, and there's different parts where they go underneath, whatever. But there's a lot of time running that in the walls. But
the cool thing, so one of the things that I really like about it, and we do this with our electrician, we'll walk through with Sharpies and we kind of lay it out with a Sharpie beforehand. And I know you do that on stick frame too, but you have to really be looking on stick frame to see what they've noted and what you're going to do there. But with the ICF, it's just super simple to walk along, and they mark out. I've seen them walk along with the boxes. So before they cut them out, they walk along with the box and they just like hit the box into the wall and then they cut it out. They have like a metal version of the plastic box that goes in. So they go along and they do that, and then they just cut those out and they go right into the foam. It's just so simple, so fast. And you're not like walking super fast, obviously, because you want to be cutting a straight line. You don't want to, have the waviness where it looks like you're trying to draw water on the wall.
I like it.
I'm sure you do. It uses more wire that way, but not more efficient. We want to be more efficient.
Oh, that's right. But we just use you just run down there's already a line. You go right down the course line, basically, because a lot of those, there's gap, even by design, there's a gap in the webs, and when you're dealing with most of the ICF companies do not have the locking web that interfere. So you actually are going right through the EPS the whole way. It's really easy cutting. You do have to cut those, through those webs on some of them if the webs connect, but
it's still faster.
It's still way faster.
Yeah, it's still way faster.
And it's just super, super easy. So then a lot of people ask and they go, well, okay, then how do you, what boxes are you using to do that? There's actually multiple ways to do that too. And it's just a preference deal. We've had electricians who prefer to use a face mount box. And basically what they do is they cut all your boxes out right next to one of your webs. It's got a face mount box. It's the same thing they do in metal stud construction. So it's nothing weird. Anybody that's done metal frame, it's the same thing. The other thing you can use, you actually can use the old school, plastic boxes. Guys will actually take out all the foam and then put a Tapcon through the back. They'll drill a hole and Tapcon in the back and pop it in there. A little more time consuming, obviously, because you had to do a pre-drill and then put the Tapcon in, but very sturdy, goes right into the concrete, grounded back to the concrete. And then the other thing is now, again, we talk about this all the time, how there's just all the time, there's just more and more products coming out that are cool for our ICF world, our ICF guys. And there's actually, ICF boxes that you can purchase now that are designed for that. So different things you can do, definitely a lot of different options there. Another question people ask is they go, you're running your wire through there. Do you have to put nail plates up? We do not have to put nail plates up because the code in everywhere I have ever heard of, if there's something different, let me know, but it has to be 1.5 inches from the face of sheetrock is what the code is. If it's past 1.5 inches from the face of sheetrock, then you don't have to put a nail plate on it because there's no worry that a screw is longer than 1.5 inches.
But where we've seen this is where they go and they cut out, 2-inch wide chases and their plan is to put conduit in or whatever. You're going to have to do something. If you don't use conduit, you have to have something to hold that wire up against that concrete to keep it held back there. Where when they're using the chainsaw, they're just able to push that wire into the foam and push it all the way back in.
Yeah, and just pressure fits. Imagine a visual. If you cut it, it kind of opens up, but the bead from the expanded polystyrene continues to expand and it'll actually kind of close that gap back up, so it's a tight fit in there.
I just had an electrician on who was new that cut the opening way too wide as he was going through there. Thought he had to go back and forth with the chainsaw, and then we did have to secure it to keep it back in there.
Yeah, and some people even just glue it, or they'll do whatever to make it in there. But you got to make sure, like I said, you're always checking to make sure you're over 1.5 inches from face of sheetrock. So really, that's 1 inch from the face of the ICF because you're another 1/2 inch. But most of these guys, like I said, are running a 2-inch cut, and when they're cutting this, they're doing a 2-inch cut. So they'll run that. I guess I didn't bring up another way to do that. There's the other option to cutting this stuff out is the hot knife. So hot knife is slow but clean. It's very clean, and it just cuts, it melts basically. So it's a hot knife has, and then you can buy them with the different size channels. We use the hot knife a lot for the boxes. So we do have a hot knife that has like a same size as a single gang box, and basically you can just melt it in. You take your box, press it up against the foam, it gives you the line, it kind of gives you your outline, and then you basically press against it, drag it down the concrete, pull it out, and you can just pull that block right out of the concrete. So hot knife's really handy to have around anyways. There's a lot of different places where you might want to use it that come out to be really handy, but you definitely, in putting those boxes in, is pretty slick. Now let's see a lot of the guys just using their chainsaw to cut out the hole and pull, just grab it with their hand, or I've seen guys just take the claw into their hammer and yank it out of there. So there's ways to do that too.
Well, but even what is it, the drywall knife that we use when we're
keyhole
stacking?
saw, a keyhole knife. Keyhole
cut it
saw,
out that way.
Yeah, and that's pretty simple.
Yeah,
as
messy
well.
still. And then we did have one electrician that insisted upon using conduit and cutting out 1 inch or 2 inch wide chases throughout the entire house and running it. It looked cool. It was done very cleanly.
Yeah.
But it took him actually longer than what it would normally take.
Yeah. So it's not
not an efficient
way to do it. So I think you can do that, but that's pretty much all the questions we get with electrical.
No, there's one more. So your electrical main panel hangs on the side of your house, on the side of your garage. And so they talk about what height do you set that at? Where do you put it at? Just all the different things. And so our electrician has had us put them 3 feet from an interior corner So typically you'll find one, you'll find your electrical panel inside your garage. So 3 feet from the interior corner, and then he likes it to be 3 feet from the finished floor for the bottom. So we'll go up about 4 feet for the penetration there. And then we just use a piece of 3 or 4 inch PVC, depending on how, 200 amp, 400 amp service that's coming into the project. And we will put that penetration through the wall. And then that you hit it when it's after the concrete's poured and dried, and the PVC pipe just pops right out if you need it to, or you can leave it in the wall as well.
Yeah. Flush cut it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't, it's just, have that discussion with your electrician. I'm sure there's electricians listening that's like freaking out. That's not where I put it. That's not. I don't know.
Trevor,
Like every codes may be different. I'm not an electrician.
Yeah.
Don't claim to be. Love my electrician.
Yes.
Shout out to Kurt.
Well, see, and I always meet with our electrician too before we even pour our footings, because I want to know where he wants the UFER at.
Right.
And where it's going to make the most sense, because we do a lot of remote jobs where like our max that the power company wants us to be away from, I don't know what's called the transformer, the main line that we're coming off of. I'm not an electrician, so I don't know.
You're not either?
No, I don't know the terminology, so
Okay,
forgive me.
sense.
But you can only be a max of like 200 feet. And it depends on if you're doing, again, 200 amp or 400 amp, what you're doing. And a lot of times we have to remote over and do stuff. But I will meet with our electrician and find out the best place to put it as we're going through the plans based on the lot and where everything is coming from. And then he and I will lay it out, and he just marks it where he wants it. And that's why we do it that way. But you want to make sure that you have that penetration before you pour concrete. You can cut it in after. It's a little more difficult to do after, but it can be done. You just need a concrete saw and some time and some strong arms.
Yeah. And they're getting better at it all the time. It's crazy, but
They
I
are.
don't suggest it. It's way easier to cut styrofoam.
Yes.
Or to cut EPS. It's super easy. So, and that is kind of a bigger overlying statement there that we'll hear us say over and over again. But meeting with your subcontractors and discussing this way in advance is always the best plan. And from the very beginning, as soon as you have blueprints, you know where everything's supposed to be, and you can start marking on there where they want it, right? And you can, we can sit down with our electrician, even on those remote jobs, and say, here, right on here where you want us to put stuff, sign your little name on there so we can come back on you if you ever say that that's not where you want it. But we literally can plan all that ahead. So, just planning that ahead is such a big thing, especially when you're talking about concrete and putting penetrations in walls. We talk about the electrical. We purposely will stick extra penetrations through the walls in places because, you got to remember you're going to be popping your electrical out through the, for the around patios and stuff like that. You're going to want plug-ins. If you're a Traeger guy like I am and you have your Traeger on the back patio, you need a plug-in for your Traeger. You're going to need all that stuff. Gas line for a barbecue if you're doing a gas barbecue. All this stuff where you're going to, penetrations are a huge part of that. And I would bundle them into this episode as well as, going through on your blueprint and, if you think far enough ahead to put it on digitally with your drafting company, that would be great. We've said we have innovative draft and design, and we draw ICF blueprints. We try to put those on the print so that it's marked with a different color, and it says this is where your penetrations are, where you want an exterior outlet, you want a water spigot, these kinds of things that need to go through the wall. Where
your dryer is going to vent.
Right, dryer vents. There's several different things that you got to think about where you need to put something through the wall and have it there. Gas fireplaces, different things like that you need to make sure you have in the wall. So, but the electricals, back to the electrical, very much well worth it to just stick even a 3/4 inch PVC pipe through somewhere in the corners of each house, the house somewhere, if you know that there's, just in case they ever need to run wire through there later. But you can drill, but just kind of thinking ahead is a big part of it. And that's planning.
Well, and let's kind of go into those same lines with penetrations with exterior water, hose bibs. With ICF, you need to have a spot where you're going to bring that water line up and go, make it tall enough outside. So it's going to come from your crawl space if you're doing a crawl space, or you're going to run that line, ahead of time before you pour concrete in a slab. But it's got to have a warm wall on the inside for it to go into. So we always try to line them up with an interior closet wall or something, because I don't know about all the other ICF builders out there, but we put shut-off valves on all of our exterior hose bibs because we're in a cold climate and those faucets can freeze.
Stuff freezes here.
Yeah. So we put shutoff valves on all of them. So we typically will bring them up in a closet wall to where we can put like a cover on the inside of the wall that they can take off, and there's a valve in there that they can turn on and off.
Right. So, and we've got, I mean, it goes right into the plumbing. You know, people always go, well, how do you do the plumbing? How do you do the plumbing? How do you do the plumbing? Plumbing is, you know, one of those. And if you really look at things, and especially in cold climates, but it's kind of a universal thing. You try as an architect or a drafting, you know, as a draftsman, you do not try to put plumbing on exterior walls. It's just not a good idea. I mean, whether it be from heat or cold or whatever it is.
The plumbing lines themselves.
You don't want plumbing in your exterior walls, or, you know, anything for that matter. You don't want they don't usually put plumbing in the exterior walls.
Well, we typically will put a bathtub or a shower on that exterior wall so that you have a window above it or whatever, but we don't run our lines through that exterior wall.
Right, they come up inside the floor.
In a warm wall.
And so it's just people, it's one of those kind of almost a wives' tale. People in their head say, what about the plumbing? And then when you really ask them to think about it, you're like, none of your plumbing in your house is on the, and they go, well, my kitchen sink is up against the wall. And I go, right, open your cabinet.
Yeah, the plumbing comes
through the floor. Like, it's not in the wall. So there's not a lot of cases where they want it in the wall, and you could have problems with that, because I mean, here's the thing: if you even in a 2x6 wall, you stick a 2-inch drain pipe or something or anything in that wall, you just eliminated half of your insulation, because now it's going to be that much easier for it to freeze. So it's, like I said, in the southern climates, warm climates, it's not as big of a deal. So you may see it a little bit more. Not super familiar with building down those areas, but I believe for most part they just don't design that. So it's one of those things where everyone's worried about it, but it's probably one of the least things you have to worry about, because really once you get the design of your house and you start looking at it, it's not going to be a big deal. So if you do, though, I want to give you the if it does happen kind of thing. If somebody says, well, no, all my plumbing's on the exterior wall, fine. As long as we know where it is, and you tell me as an installer, I can make sure that pipe will go in that wall. Now, if I have to, I mean, it could be as easy as just taking out, if it's a 2-inch pipe or 2.5-inch pipe or smaller, then we just pull the foam out after the concrete's poured. If it's going to be, say, a 3-inch pipe or a 4-inch pipe or something like that, what we have the ability to do is we can actually mark where that pipe's going to be, and we can cut channel. Well, no, we'll cut the actual foam on both sides, and then we will push that piece of foam back into the concrete or into the cavity a little bit before we pour the concrete, and then we'll glue it. Mm-hmm. And then what we're doing is it'll give a little bit of a spot where the concrete's going to go around that a little bit. We're going to be able to pull that out and we'll pull that foam out like we would normally. But now, because we pushed it back a little bit, we can actually have more room than that we need. And so in the rare case that happens, and that has been very rare, I've had it happen. I can only think of one time where I had that happen, and it was something that was because a bathroom upstairs ended up getting planned later on, and that was added after we had already started. So we ended up having to push it down because there was going to be a drain pipe, black pipe coming down through there. So, but I mean, it's pretty rare. So, but it's not, like we say with ICF, it's not impossible to fix these things. Like, I mean, we can do whatever we need to do if you tell me ahead of time. And I mean, we can do it after too. It's just way more expensive when we have to cut concrete and rebar. But
exactly. It's like we were finishing up a set of plans, and we were starting to mark, the centers, because it's going to be a slab on grade. So obviously there's going to be some groundwork that has to be done, plumbing that has to be done underneath that slab before they can prep and pour that slab. So we were marking all the areas and how far from, the ICF stem wall or the ICF wall itself, but on the plan it was called the stem wall. But we're marking out where all that stuff is going. So it's something that we can do when we're designing your home. We can plan for all of that. If you make changes in the field, then you're going to have to obviously
then you might have to wing some stuff, but we still make it work. But that's pretty much it for plumbing. I mean, plumbing's pretty straightforward, like I said, because it's actually not as big a deal as people think it is, and they bring it up. And I know there's going to be a lot of people listen to this podcast and they're going to go, well, oh, wait. And then they're going to look at their house they're sitting in while they're listening to it, or they're going to think about their house. They're going to look at their design and go, yeah, they're right. We don't really put plumbing on walls. So anyway, that kind of answers that question. Obviously, if you guys have any questions on this, email shoot us an email, shoot us the, DM, whatever. Same way you've been doing. You guys have been doing awesome. So the last thing I wanted to bring into this is, do you have a plumbing thing or?
No, I didn't know we were on the last thing already. Go ahead.
Yeah. We're moving to fasteners because for some reason, this has come up over and over in some of the Facebook groups and stuff that I've been watching. People asking, how do you hang a picture? How do you do, how do you know where the studs are? How do you, so there's a few different aspects of this, right? We saw, I should probably know who I saw this on, if it was Up to Code, maybe. I think it was Up to Code. I hope I'm doing it. I hope I'm giving the correct credit, but I want to give credit because I saw it on Instagram, and I'm sure some other people saw it on Instagram, but I think it was Cody on Up to Code. But they were basically talking about with their ICF houses, they will actually go on their plans, and before the sheetrock's up and while they're doing the ICF, at one point when he has a few minutes to go through the house, he will actually mark on the plans the measurements, how far in the stud is and where the studs land. And then you don't have to measure everyone, but he's marking in from the corner, and he'll show on the plan, come in 7.5 inches, and then every 6 inches after that, or whatever, or 8 inches, depending on the brand. But I thought that was really cool. And if he was like kind of making those marks for people so that the homeowner, when they received the plans, could actually go back and go, oh, hold on, I'll look. Oh, on this wall, there's a stud every 6 inches starting here. So that's a pretty cool idea. Never thought about that. We just never did it. We kind of made our homeowners figure it out. But it's pretty straightforward. The stud finder thing is a touchy deal. I've had arguments with people tell me there are expensive stud finders out there that are considered a density stud finder that can actually read the difference in the density of the studs, right? There's even some that are visual, almost like a thermal gun type. And I don't know. I'm totally screwing it up. There's people probably yelling at the speaker, yelling at their radio, but they actually will pick up the difference in the wall. You can see the difference and see into the wall a little bit, kind of x-ray of it, and they'll see the density differences between the foams. And so you can see those. I've seen people put those out there too. Yes, there's the other option is people say a magnetic, any kind of magnetic stud finder that's going to find a screw basically somewhere in the wall. It's going
to find some of your studs.
Yeah, you're going to find a few. But all of that is great. I will go back to the fact of just my own. This is not scientific. I am not an engineer. I will tell you what I've been doing for 20 years on ICF though, and it's worked for me, is using just a standard sheetrock anchor. It's rated. There's ratings for them. The bigger the anchor, the bigger the screw, the bigger, and they're rated pretty high. I mean, unless you're hanging a gun safe, most of them will work right into the sheetrock and into the EPS. Most of this EPS is a 2 pound, or it's 1.5 pounds to 2 pound EPS. So it's a pretty dense EPS. It's pretty strong. Like if you just fill the block, it's a pretty strong. If you put a sheetrock anchor in there, screw into it, it expands into that foam. It holds pretty good. Then you put the sheetrock on top of that. I'm sitting here looking at it. I guess this isn't RT.
No, wrong house, baby.
Wrong house. I forgot where I was. Wow, I'm getting old. Okay. I am not in my ICF house tonight. Usually though, I'm sitting here looking at a, 55-inch TV mounted onto a wall that is mounted into an ICF wall just with those anchors.
Normally, yes.
We have all of our TVs mounted with just regular sheetrock, hollow core sheetrock anchors, just the plastic ones. I've seen people say they use the actual but the metal lag anchors that are basically expandable. Any kind of anchor that's going to, is going to expand as you put it into the, not the toggle ones. That's obviously for a hollow core. It's not going to work. But if you, basically drill a hole and put a sheetrock anchor in, you can hang pretty much any picture, any fixture, anything you want to do. And it's funny because I hear people just really freaking out about trying to find the stud, and it's not as important as you would think. At least it hasn't been in my personal experience.
No, I was worried because we have a couple of mirrors and pictures that are hung up on the ICF walls, and they're way heavier than the TV.
Yeah, the big mirror in our living room, in the dining room, I guess.
Yeah, in the dining room.
It's a very heavy mirror, and it's hung on 2 sheetrock anchors that I put in there.
Yeah, I mean they're appropriately sized sheetrock anchors, but yes.
And we had an earthquake the other day.
We've had several earthquakes, yes, but yeah.
pretty good one. Like knocked stuff off of people's shelves and stuff.
Yeah.
Not our house.
No.
We're solid.
No.
So, going back to that too, and this brings up the argument about I see people debating about the nails or screws or whatever for siding, putting on hardy siding or different things. We have applied, every house that we have installed siding on has been applied with ring shank nails. And we've never had a problem except for when people don't hit the stud.
Yes.
We have had siding come off and people go, see, it's because the ICF. And we go back, and every time we go back, we have photographic evidence. They put the nail right between the studs. They put it into the styrofoam, into the EPS. That would happen the same way if they missed a stud on a wood house.
Yeah.
And they can't argue that because they are to hit the stud on a wood house just like they are to hit the stud. Difference being ours are every 6 inches instead of every 16.
Yes.
So you have a way better chance. But make sure you can fire a ring shank nail just like out of a regular siding gun the same way you would on stick frame, and it will shoot into that EPS and it will hold. I have always used the term, I need to probably look this up because I have always been taught that it's on average right around 198 pounds of pull out on a polypropylene web. I've heard a lot of people say it's 100 pounds. I'm kind of curious if that's changed over the years because for 20 years I've been using the term 198 pounds for a reason. But
maybe it would depend on the webs are different thicknesses for the different companies.
Different companies. Maybe it's just certain companies that I'm educated on or that way. But anyways, point being, it's stronger than a 2x4. So it actually, and this is the way it was explained to me years and years ago. And I think most people in construction understand that framing nails are vinyl coated. So they call them vinyl coated sinkers, right? The reason the vinyl coat's on there is because as it goes in, it actually creates heat and friction, and that vinyl that's on the nail will actually melt and almost glue the nail into the stud. Imagine that's happening kind of in reverse with any nail that goes into a polypropylene web. Polypropylene will actually kind of melt as it goes in, and then it will adhere it in there very strong. I personally had a piece of ICF that I would take with me to all my training classes I did. They had 2 or 3 pieces of hardy siding on it. And I would put $100 bill down and say, any on the lunch breaks or anything, anybody wants to come up here and try to pull these siding pieces off with your bare hands, I'll give you $100. I carried that thing around for years and I never gave away that $100 bill. Because you can't do it. So no wonder bar, no claw hammer, just come up here and pull off. Nobody could do it. So it will hold. And like I said, I see stuff written on the internet. It drives me crazy because there's, I did this and the siding fell off. You have to use screws and I'm like, not in my experience. Let's put it that way. Like I'm not denying or saying anybody's a liar, but not in my experience. I will say this, there is some, back up a little bit. There is some rules to it. You can't do it in the dead of winter in North Dakota, and it's, or Canada. A lot of people from Canada are listening, and then they, you can't go through the dead of winter when they're cold. They will get brittle and they will pop. That will happen. So let me give that little asterisk. But if you're doing it during normal building season, the temperatures are staying above freezing, you should have no problem putting a nail into the web. Go ahead and yell at me. Send the nasty emails now. I'm sure everyone's going to tell me how they can't do it. They need screws, which is a great segue into something I just saw.
Yeah. He has been so excited about this since he saw it. I don't know. We got back from working out and he was on his phone and he was like, oh my gosh, we need these.
It was literally, it was just minutes ago. I'm trying to see. I had it pulled up. I wish I would have. I think I didn't save it on here
so that you could give credit.
Yeah, it was. So basically, it is a what'd they call it? A
scrael.
Scrael?
Yeah, instead of a screw.
And I may feel dumb because there may be so many people that know about this because I Googled it and it's actually been a thing for a little while. It's not like it's brand spanking new. I think it is just kind of getting out there for most of us, but basically it is a screw that you can purchase in a strip that will fit into most of your guns. Like we shoot a 30-degree framing nailer. So I can actually go on here, and I will be doing this. I haven't done it yet, but I will be going on and ordering a box of these scrails. And basically you shoot it through your nail gun just like you do a nail, but it is it's a screw, and it has a screw tip on it. So basically you can unscrew it with a screw gun.
Yeah. Put it in, like you can't normal with a nail gun, but then if you need to remove it, you can use the screw gun and take it out.
Think of how fast you could do all your scabbing and stuff. Like say where you have, your standing seams, say where you have your around window bucks. So anywhere where you're putting any kind of bracing up and scabbing and blocking off for I'm like, where have you been all my life? Like it literally makes all the sense in the world. And then you can go back when you're ready to, peel down everything, take all your bracing down and all that stuff. It's going to come right down, and you're just going to be able to back it out with a regular screw. And I think you can actually order it. From what I saw, I literally just learned about this minutes ago or before the podcast. So yes, it looked like you can actually get them with either a square drive or a Phillips or whatever. So it goes in, drive it in. I haven't used this product, so don't tell if you've used this and it sucks. I may be totally wrong.
It looked really cool in the video. It was on the internet. It has to be true.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I mean, we're on the internet and we're true. I think that it's got to be awesome. It has to be. It's giving me hope.
You have a training class next week. I guess we can find out.
I do have a training class next week. So if anybody's listening to this you're going to be in the Idaho area, March 27th, we are doing a training that we'll be doing at our location in Nampa, Idaho, just outside of Boise. And we've still got some room left. We just need to know how much food to get. So let us know. I'll put a link in in the bio there. You can actually go to our Instagram at Build with ICF. We've got a sign up sheet on there you can click on. But anybody that wants to come out, we're just going to do one-on-one class. It's going to be real basic. I mean, I will be answering any question that's thrown at me. So if if we want to get into it, I know we have some guys who are actually experienced installers that are coming to the class just because they want refresher and they just kind of want to hear some different ways to do things. And then we're going to finish up at the end of the class. We'll be doing Hulk waterproofing training. So we'll be doing some of that, getting some hands-on. All of it will be hands-on too. We'll do classroom, and then we'll actually stack out we drew up some plans for a 12 by 16 shed.
No, it's 12 by 12 now.
Oh, 12 by 12 shed. And we'll be stacking that. So you'll get your hands on, and then we'll also be waterproofing that as well. So pretty cool. So that'll be fun. I think that's about it.
Yeah, for tonight.
But again, we keep saying thank you to everybody. I just, every time, man, we're just blown away. Every week keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, more downloads, more questions, more people giving us shout outs. Thank you to a few of you who have come on and got hold of us and thanked us for what we do. There's no need for that, but it sure makes us feel good. That's awesome to know that people are appreciating what we're doing and what we're putting out here, just wanting to put some good information out about insulated concrete forms and educate people on them, because we just know, hands down, it is the best way to build. You'll never regret building your home out of ICF, ever, ever, ever. And we just want to make sure that people are educated about it, and they're getting to, getting a free education on all this, and able to maybe just spend some time in their car or wherever they're at listening to our podcast, and maybe getting to hear some things that they're learning about. We had great feedback from the Helix podcast from last week.
Yeah. People
really wanted to hear about that. So it's just every week seems to get better and better. We're going to continue to bring on different brands. We've got some brands scheduled. We've got Fox Block coming up. We've got Logix. We're going to be doing several different, I'm trying to think, I've had several different, and we've actually been contacted by a few pool guys.
Yep.
So the pool guys are coming out of the woodwork wanting to do an episode. So I think we're going to probably do maybe a couple episodes on pools, because I want to hear different takes on how to do pools and how guys are doing it, and because there's kind of a building part of it, and there's also a waterproofing part of it, and stuff like that, mechanical and different things. So it'll be good. We've got a lot of great ideas, but please shoot us more. We're always looking for ideas of what we can do. We're always looking for cool new guests. If you know of anybody, or you are somebody that would like to be on here, please shoot us an email at info@buildwithicf.com. Hit us up on any social at buildwithicf.com.
At buildwithicf. No .com on the socials.
Yeah, sorry.
it just rolls. It's just you're
I
used to
know.
saying
I
it,
was
so
on-
it works.
I was on one.
Yeah. And then I was going to say thank you to those that are sharing the show and getting the word out there, because I've seen it on a few of the Facebook groups and different things where, we'll comment about the show and then other people come and then they get forwarded out and everything. So thank you for sharing it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sending your DMs and your questions. Please continue to do so, like Trevor
Yeah,
said.
please. We're not, as of yet, we're not sponsored, but we're always looking. We're always open. But we definitely are interested in and appreciative of the sharing and helping us get the word out, because that's why we do it. So, anyways, if there's anything we can do, you know how to get a hold of us now, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Have a great night.
Good night.